Our guest today is somebody I respect so much. I've admired for years and years. Finally got to meet him and hang. Can you imagine? He interviewed me. When that happened, I was like, whoa, somebody you look up to actually ends up interviewing you. So we're going to get right to that. And many of you know who he is. He's going to have to give us some secrets today. I'm going to pepper him. I'm like, yo, wait a minute. Secrets. We don't want the generalizations, the garbage. No. We want the inside stuff, the inside secrets to higher performance, because guess what? We're chess players, all right? We're chess players. And even though I'm at GM level, how do I get better? Those of you who are like, we're on the path, Tim, tell us the deal. Well, I'm talking about none other than Tim Ferriss, the one and only. He's been a lifestyle guru, investor, author, wrote 5 books, critically acclaimed, has his own podcast as well. The number of episodes, if you haven't seen those or listened to those podcasts, you're missing out on so much good stuff, including an interview with me. Wait a minute, you missed that? Hey, hurry up and take a look and make sure you bookmark everything up, whatever. Wait a minute, that's Tim Ferriss. Let's make sure we get all the stuff, because his knowledge is pure college, folks. He's one of the greatest minds around, and a humble guy as well. Let me introduce to the show Tim Ferriss himself. Tim, hey, what's up?
Hey, man. Thanks for having me. It's good to see you.
Good to see you as well, Tim. Like I said, I have admired you for a long time. The first time I heard about you was when I read your book, 4-Hour Work Week. And as I told you when you interviewed me, your book messed up my life, like wrecked my life, literally, instantly. So thank you very much. I appreciate getting my life wrecked. But I do. It's the truth. How many people have said that to you about books you've written, particularly 4-Hour Work Week, that they were like, man, that messed me up, right? Like, I thought I was good, and then that just was like, boom, wake up.
The slap from the universe. A fair number, which is always surprising to me, because it was turned down by 26, 29 publishers, something like that. I mean, nobody wanted to buy this book. So the fact that it's had the longevity it has since 2007 is still mind-boggling to me. So it's really just a wild path. Back when I had hair in 2007.
I remember see them days. Let me think. 2007. I think I was already losing mine for real, legit.
Yeah. I think I was in denial around 2009, and then gave up the ghost and just took it off at that point. And I'm happy with it.
You know how that works. That's a man who's confident in himself when he can make that big step. And let's talk about 4-Hour Work Week. Let's go a little bit before that, because the intro to 4-Hour Work Week really details some of your direction that got you to want to start hacking life. A lot of things you did were not in the norm. I mean, your college experience as a starter. Why don't we go there and talk to the fans about why it is that you felt you had a different path that was going to be your destiny?
Well, I think it starts with a whole lot of dysfunction, to be honest, and deficits. I had a lot of health problems when I was really young. I was born premature. I was in the NICU for a really long time, had a lot of respiratory, thermoregulatory issues, and ended up wrestling because I was a runt. I was tiny, and the sport of wrestling is, it's a challenging sport. It was the only thing I could do because it was weight class based. And I ended up becoming really familiar with a few different things, including weight cutting. So I was never the most technical wrestler, but I knew that I could have an advantage if I could cut the most weight, which can be very dangerous. So I don't recommend people do this. And they've changed the rules since I competed. But that was really the beginning of looking at unorthodox ways of stacking the deck in my favor, because I couldn't compete against the brawlers. I couldn't compete against the technicians. So I had to play with the rules in such a way that I could sort of interpret them in my favor. And that began with wrestling, and then later with language learning. So I think that those two things combined, because I'd concluded, like a lot of people, when forced to study Spanish or French, in my case, it was only Spanish, that I was bad at languages, but it wasn't that I was bad at languages. It was that the method didn't match the way my mind worked at all. And I think that this applies to any type of skill you might want to develop or any type of data you might want to retain, whether it's language, whether it's chess, whether it's dance, whether it's anything else. And I then chanced upon a really, really incredible instructor in Japanese, of all things, which is a lot harder than Spanish for a native English speaker. But nonetheless, because the method was better, and I was able to learn Japanese. And this was when I was 15. And I'll try not to make this like a Dr. Evil story of my life, but when I had the opportunity to go to Japan as an exchange student, which I did, and I was at one point, the only American in a 5,000 student Japanese school. I mean, every class in Japanese. I didn't understand anything for about 3 to 6 months. Nonetheless, I was able to realize how much of our lives are governed by rules that are pretty arbitrary, right? I mean, driving on the right side of the road versus the left, or the way that people bathe here versus the way they bathe in Japan. It's completely the opposite in a lot of ways. And that then brought me back with, I think, just a lens for looking for social convention, if that makes any sense. Like things
Absolutely.
we're doing because we've fallen into repeating what the people around us or before us have done. And with that type of lens in front of me, I was able to just start asking questions. That's really what it came down to, whether it was applied to language learning, ultimately what I wrote my senior thesis on, or applied to business. But it took me a while. Like, it's very easy to be unorthodox and question things in one specific domain and then still kind of sleepwalk into mimicking everything around you in other domains. So it's a learned practice to just constantly ask questions. Why? What if I did the opposite? What would this look like if I stopped doing it for 48 hours, et cetera, et cetera? You know, some of these types of questions will be familiar to those who've read the 4-Hour Workweek. And that's really the basic gist of it, is not striving to be a heretic, but also being willing to ask questions of the sacred cows in whichever area of your life you might be taking a closer look at. And, you know, sometimes it works out and you find great approaches and shortcuts and all this. And sometimes you go, you know what, actually, there are a lot of good reasons why people do this particular way. And so it goes. I have to just kind of slog through it.
It's fantastic. And to me, the fact that you brought up travel as the first thing that really jostled that creativity and that look at things that are conventional around you speaks to getting out of your environment, right? When you're in your environment, you just roll. And that's one of my beliefs about traveling. Why I love to travel is because it makes me look at my own behaviors and say, you know what, you're just a monkey, dude. You're just mimicking everybody around you, or parroting people around you. So that's a huge point. But here's the thing. When you do that, you come back with this different mindset that people around you don't have. And now you have to deal with those people who are conventional, who know that this is the way things are done. What was your experience when you started saying, no, I don't have to do it that way? There must have been enormous pushback.
You definitely run into pushback, but you know, I think my orientation has been such, I was like, oh man, I'm just going to be able to, you know, steal the lunch money from every single one of these people. I mean, not in a bad way, you know, I'm not going to do something unethical, but I was like, if people are locked into a way of doing things that is based on nothing more than mimicry, and they can't, by definition, see those blind spots, like, my God, you have a lot of room to develop a competitive advantage. And so I was pretty excited about the fact that not everyone had this experience, although certainly if and when I have kids, which I hope to, I would want to expose them to these types of environments so that they have these types of realizations. But the pushback, I think the pushback in part didn't bother me because I'd already seen a lot of pushback with sports, with language learning, with a few other things that I'd worked on. And ultimately, a lot of things didn't work, but a few things did. And the results kind of spoke for themselves. And then people were like, all right, fine. That's actually seems to be working really well. Keep doing that. And, my parents were supportive. Teachers varied in their support. Some teachers absolutely hated me, with probably some good reason. But there were others who were like, "Hey, man, like keep experimenting. Like this is a good way of thinking, right?" And I think this is the key piece, at least for me, that if anyone who's watching this can be a scientist in the sense of thinking scientifically. That's all it is. You don't have to have a white lab coat or anything else. You just need to be good at performing experiments, right? Forming hypotheses, testing them, keeping good notes, and then iterating. And
you're talking about experimenting on your own life. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. It could be any aspect. And, for me, when I get asked, people ask me like, what's your 5-year plan? What's your 10-year plan? I don't have a 5 or 10-year plan. Aside from like probably making many attempts to stop thinking about myself, just like being so self-referential, hence, the desire to maybe have kids at some point. I'm so tired, exhausted of thinking about myself. But aside from that, I don't really have those types of long-term goals. I feel like if I'm doing kind of 2-week to 6 months experiments and constantly learning from those, and as I learn from those, looking around myself for the doors that open that are most interesting, like the 5-year plan will kind of take care of itself, is largely how I've lived my life for the last few decades. And I'm not saying it's for everybody, but it's been a fun and exciting way to approach it for me.
What's funny, Tim, is the same thing happens in chess. People expect, they say, oh, you Grandmaster see 20 moves ahead. I'm telling you, man, you can study and you map it all out. And you see the whole game in your head. And that's simply impossible. Just impossible. Like, how are you going to do that with billions and billions of possibilities on the board? The best thing you can do is play what looks good right now and within the next couple of moves, because your opponent will do something completely unexpected, and then you'll have to adjust to that. So you would have completely wasted your time. You're like, let me study every single move and figure out all the possibilities from here. You can't do it. Even the computers don't do it. At some point, they break down as it gets too complex. And so it's all about being smart right now, like really being smart right now and playing the best move you see right now. And as long as it's not a complete screw up that's going to get you killed, then you can try it. Like you can see, like this is not bad. At least it doesn't look bad. So let me do it and see where the consequences lie. So it's really just in line with what you're talking about the short-term thinking.
Totally.
But just trying to make sure you're fresh and creative.
Yeah, I mean, chess. We'll talk more about this, I'm sure. I mean, chess is extremely fascinating to me. Games in general are very fascinating to me because we're all playing games, right? And the key, at the very least, is not winning the game. First, it's knowing what game you're playing, right? And so you have chess, which, I'd love to have a conversation about this, but like chess, as far as I know, it's a game of complete information. Then you have games like poker, then you have games like blackjack, where there are differing levels of incomplete information. And I find all of it endlessly fascinating. When I was in Japan, I actually played a decent amount of shogi, Japanese chess. My host father was really good at it. He was really good at anything that could be used for betting. It was pretty funny. So like mahjong, pachinko, he was really good at choosing the machines. It's just like slot machines. It's not how you play the game. It's choosing the right machines. He was really good at it. And shogi. And so we would play shogi. And in fact, I learned how to play shogi before I learned how to play, I don't know the proper modifier, but let's just call it kind of Western chess, yeah, Orthodox chess. And so, I was taking pieces off and then replacing pieces before I played Western chess. And
you can't do that. You're not.
No.
That's it.
Yeah, but it's a, and you might recognize this language, right? It's like sort of studying the microcosm to be able to act in the macrocosm, right? And sort of very Waitskin-esque. And I think it can be used, like chess can be used, I think, and this is said as a complete, illiterate when it comes to chess. I have no skills to speak of, so I'll just put that on the table for people.
Wait a minute, I thought you were a Grandmaster. What are we?
Well, no, the GM, I put GM before my name, but it stands for General Manager. It's definitely not Grandmaster. But I do think that you can, at least I have sought in the little exposure that I've had, to use chess as a way to study my own thinking and my own assumptions and my own weaknesses, right? And, recently had a chance in the last couple months to spend a little bit of time with someone named Light Bujani.
Wow.
And Light's a great guy and a really excellent teacher. And it was a lot of fun for me because as someone with very, very, very rough, basically non-existent skills in chess, to be able to walk through some of the classic games or games that he considered beautiful, to develop an aesthetic eye for looking for beauty within the confines of chess, I think transcends the game of chess itself, for me at least. And, as such, like to have this board in front of you that you can use as a test bed for looking at how you behave, how you make decisions, how you rush or don't rush, how you make compromises or don't make compromises, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'd love to hear from you do you find that chess styles and players end up being mirrored outside of the chessboard in their lives?
But of course.
Yeah, I would imagine, right?
You're speaking truth. You're speaking absolute truth there. You see the risk takers on the chessboard are risk takers in life. You see the conservative ones on the chessboard mirror that in life as well. It's very rare that people actually are one personality in life and then take it to the chessboard and display completely different attitudes. Like, oh, I'm just going to go for it. No, they will fall back into their tried and true patterns when they get to the chessboard. So styles matter. Your personality matter. Your character totally matter when you're sitting at the board. So that is an absolutely astute point that you're making. Even though you call yourself a non-chess player, I consider you the highest level of thinker as you apply these principles to chess.
Thank you.
And but talking about chess and hacking, you have used these kind of hacking methodologies throughout so many different things. I'm curious, you talked about language for a second. Before we go on, what are a couple of things about language learning? Because I need some secrets. Sure. What are a couple of things you've learned about language learning to hyper accelerate for those folks who are thinking like you did, I just am not gifted in languages at all? Like, what are a couple of things that come to mind for you that strengthen the process for learning a language?
Sure. Happy to dig in. We could spend hours on this.
I know. We don't have hours.
No, we don't have hours, but I'll encapsulate it. So first, let me make the sales pitch, because I think for a lot of people, they've been told it takes a lifetime to become fluent in a language, et cetera, and the payoff is very unclear. So I'll say two things. The first is that when you learn any other language to a basic level of conversational fluency, and I'll define what I mean by that, you gain an additional lens through which not just to view the world, but to think about the world. It is impossible to claim you understand another culture without speaking the language, because the language is the medium through which people think, and all of their conceptual frameworks about the world are reflected in language. The good news is it doesn't take a lifetime. My opinion is for the vast majority of languages, in 8 to 12 weeks, if you're very dedicated, you can develop basic conversational fluency.
That's aggressive, 8 to 12 weeks.
It's aggressive. It's if you make it your part-time job. And my feeling is with language, density matters. I'm sure this is true with chess as well. If you're doing 1 hour once a week, you could do that for 10 years and never really develop the adaptations that come about when you have greater density. True with physical training as well, weight training, and so on. So if you committed, so principle number 1 is material beats method, and that means choosing the highest frequency material, even if you study it poorly, will defeat an approach that focuses on finding the best method possible, but not focusing on the highest frequency material. Unfortunately, it's pretty easy to find high frequency material. You could use something like Viz Ed flashcards, which I still think are an excellent tool, Viz-Ed, and they have flashcards for I think at least 6 to 12 different languages. And those will provide you with, let's just call it the 1,000 to 1,500 most frequently used words. If you memorize those words and know how to use them in a sentence, and they have sample sentences and phrases on these cards, for all intents and purposes, you have basic conversational fluency. You will need to layer on, let's just say 20 to 40 idiomatic expressions that won't have any literal translation. That's fine. That's very easy to do. So the first things that I would do, if I were thinking about learning a language, it could be Turkish, it could be Greek, it could be Mandarin Chinese, it could be anything, right? I've studied Hebrew, it could be Arabic. You know, I've messed around with all these languages. Get a Lonely Planet phrase book. This will help you with the idiomatic phrases. Get a Viz Ed high frequency flashcard kit. I think Duolingo is the best software available for sort of progressive resistance with language learning. Full disclosure, I was one of their earliest investors, in part because I'd seen everything, and I do believe their technology and approach to be superior. Pimsleur is also excellent. And the best example of Pimsleur, or an analog of Pimsleur, Pimsleur, is actually Michelle Thomas, Michel, last name Thomas, Thomas, sort of language teacher to the stars, was, I believe, an intelligence officer. And if you do anything with the Michelle Thomas recordings, ensure that you get the old recordings of Michel Thomas himself teaching and sometimes berating students in a live session. It's fantastic. It's so good. Oh, it's great. It's great because there's this one I think she's an American woman who's much better than you'll ever be, and you're like, oh my God, I can't do what she does. But then there's this poor British guy who just gets his ass handed to him over and over, and he's so bad. And so you're like, so you think to yourself, well, at least I'm not as bad as that guy. And it involves no note-taking, no reading, no written exercises. You are just listening to these recordings and responding when you're prompted to respond. It's really remarkable. So the Pimsleur method, as exemplified by Michel Thomas, is outstanding. Duolingo for also just developing basic grammatical structures and continuing to practice with vocabulary. But if you just commit to 20 words per day from high frequency material and you follow what I'm recommending, you will have a basic level of fluency in 8 to 12 weeks, assuming that you have someone to correct your pronunciation, which is very easy because in a language like Spanish, you could have a few paragraphs from a text, you record that, you send it to someone who has the same text, who's a native speaker. They then listen to your recording. They circle or highlight areas you need to focus on, and then you drill those specific parts. And I've used this type of approach now with at least, God, I don't know, 10 to 12 languages. And what's important to note is that in the case of going somewhere like Turkey or I'm going to Ethiopia and I'm going to study, I think it's called Tigrinya, which is not even, Amharic. It's Tigrinya. It's a more specialized dialect. And people might ask me, well, when the hell are you ever going to use this again? And the answer is never. But by taking a few weeks, 30 to 60 minutes a day to invest the effort, my experience of Ethiopia is fundamentally different than anyone else who goes and only speaks English. And it is so enriching and so fun, and the response you get from people is so completely different that I view it as a no-brainer in terms of investing the time. And once you kind of defang language learning and this ridiculous notion that it takes a lifetime to become fluent in any language, like, yeah, okay, fine. We can say that about English. Like, how many of us know the entire vocabulary of Shakespeare? Fucking nobody, pardon my French. But it's like, that doesn't do anyone any good. Like, you can with a basic injection of 1,200 to 1,500 words, develop functional conversational fluency in a language that you can use like 2 to 3 months from now.
Fabulous. Fabulous. Thank you for taking that excursion. I know this is a chess channel, but we're all about learning efficiently as well. And you dropped some important knowledge, because in chess, folks, for those of you out there want to know, there are patterns in chess as well. There are high frequency patterns in chess. There's certain checkmates that come up again and again and again. There are certain pawn formations. You got to know these set pawn formations, things like hanging pawns, things like the isolani, whether or not it's the D4, E5 structures versus E6, D5, who's trying to attack on which side, typical things like pawn breaks that are simple patterns that you have to learn, specific end games that come up again and again and again. And if you learn those high frequency ones, you can handle yourself reasonably in chess. And it's not about learning openings. People start studying openings and trying to memorize, okay, let me learn all the opening moves one by one. And no, that's awful. That's actually an awful way to learn chess. What you need are these high frequency patterns that come up again and again. As a start, as you drill deeper, there'll be subtleties that you'll have to learn. For sure. And that's where the mastery comes in. Yep. But in the initial stages, you just want to learn the typical patterns, the tricks that you fall for over and over again. It's like, oh my God, they just sacked on F7 on you again, and you allowed this fork, and you're like, don't you know this setup? Basic stuff. So that is exactly what we would do in chess. Now, when you say 8 to 12 weeks, I might push back if you start talking about chess. And I know, and I know, as we met again, we met over a chessboard. Well, I should say you were playing chess, and your group asked me to come to Washington Square Park to watch you in a very interesting experiment that was called the Tim Ferriss Experiment, if I'm not mistaken. The show was called, where you were trying to hack a lot of activities in a very short period of time. Yeah. And one of those shows turned into a video that I know a lot of folks here have seen. And if you haven't seen it, you're going to see it right after we come back. We'll be back, folks, to talk about the great trash talking video with the hustler in Washington Square Park. I've held back this video, Tim, until I knew you would be on the show, because so many people are like, hey, I want to watch that video. Show us that video. Talk about that video. For the first time, those of you who are here on this stream, you're going to see that video right after we come back from this commercial break. You're here on the GM Ashley Show with Tim Ferriss. We'll be right back. And we are back with Tim Ferriss. And it's just been fun listening to you, Tim, as you are somebody who thinks about the unconventional ways to success. I love that. If anybody has heard anything tonight, it's about thinking outside of the box. I'm going to go on that phrase, Tim. I'm going to have you park that for a little while. We're going to come back to the idea of thinking outside the box and what you think about that, because I know you're going to say something interesting on that phraseology itself. But before we do that, let's give the people what they wanted. I've literally waited. It's been like 8 or 9 months since I first started streaming. 8 or 9 months. It's like a baby being born. It's like a baby being born to finally play this video, as people have just been demanding it over and over, like, yeah, you know, I'll get to it. One day I'll make it happen. But I knew today was going to be the day because I knew you were going to be on the show and you were an integral part of making this video come to be. So here we go, folks. It's the Hustler video. One of the, well, it's been seen a few times on YouTube, like, you know, 8.5 million, and on other platforms as well. So let's have some fun, folks. Sit back with your popcorn. And if you haven't seen it, it's going to be good. And if you have seen it, it's always good. Let's roll the tape. Sorry, everyone, a little technical difficulty there. Our producer is hurrying up to check that out. There's no sound for the moment. He's going to roll it back so you can hear it. Philidor's Ghost. We have this thing on this stream, Tim. Andre Philidor was a famous grandmaster from the 18th century. And I talked about him and somebody trashed him. And I went nuts. I mean, I just went insane. Like, what? You're trashing Philidor? And right after I finished defending Philidor, the stream shut down. Like, whoa. It's like Philidor says, and by the way, whoa. And then when I came back, we were like, what's the deal? Philidor's Ghost. And
shut down the stream.
Right, shut down the stream. And then I kept talking, and then the stream shut down again. It's like, he's telling us. And from then on, everybody knows anything happens on this stream is because Philidor's Ghost is in the main. So that's what happened there. We're going to run this back to our producer. I don't know if we're ready. Run it back to the beginning so we can start. I think we should have solved it. Let's try it again. Let's hope this time we hear the sound. Philidor, stay away.
Okay. Wilson.
Wilson, where you from?
Boom, hit.
Where you from?
Oh.
You Jamaican? Yeah, boy?
No.
No?
Hit, boom.
Don't I get side?
I'm sorry.
I don't get side? As
What?
black?
I mean, yeah, if you want to play black, that's good. You hit, bum. Oh, you're a chess man. You're an expert.
Me?
Look at, you don't even look at the board. Look at that. It does not even look at the board. Yeah? You don't even look at the board. Look at.
Ooh, there's a lot of talking going on.
You don't even look at the board, eh?
If you don't beat him French, you can't stay. We're gonna evict you.
Oh,
It's our house.
I noticed that he went to my student and he won't come to me. And I've been over there trying to get him over there.
It's our house. If you lose,
There's a lot of trash talking in this place.
yeah, we're gonna ban him for life if he lose.
Take that.
Not in this house.
Wait a minute. Don't get funky. I know. Could get tough.
What? You after something?
No, I don't want anything. Can I take this?
Of course it's yours.
It's mine. I'll
This
take
is
it.
Oh,
yours.
you let the queen come down.
Mine is mine.
Whoa.
He's back. What did you touch? You touch something of mine?
No, I never touch anything.
You touch something of
I
mine?
never touch any piece.
What if I go down here? What happens?
Let's fix in the pond.
What if I go in your house?
Whoa.
I mean,
come down
it's
here.
all right. It's okay.
Whoa.
I don't know.
It's okay to go.
Yeah.
It's all right. There's nothing
all
wrong
right.
with
So Maurice, how long you been kicking puppies?
There's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing? I
There's
don't
no-
know.
There's nothing wrong with
Could be
that.
some trouble.
He's in trouble.
Nah, there's no trouble. You're okay.
He's in trouble.
Could be some trouble.
He's in trouble.
You think he's in trouble?
I agree.
You think he's in trouble? He could be in trouble. He might be in trouble.
He's in trouble.
Yeah, I think he's in trouble.
He's in trouble. See?
Wait a minute. Let me get rid of this guy. He's not friendly. Whoa, 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 whoa. That was right there.
Oh,
Don't
I'm
try the
sorry.
trickery now.
No.
Is that how the trickery
That's okay.
works?
No.
That was like a magic
That's
trick.
okay.
I like the
No.
way you did that.
No, nothing happened.
That was like
to
a
you.
magic. You see what
Nothing
he did?
happened.
My piece disappeared
Nothing has
from
happened
the
to you.
board. Wow, that was deep. That was some
Nothing
serious
has
trickery. Let me
happened to
take
you.
that from you. Wait a minute.
Nothing has happened to you. Nothing
Be
has
comfortable.
happened to
Be
you.
comfortable. Be nice. That's yours. That's
Nothing
okay.
has happened to
That's
you.
okay. I'll take all of these. I think I can manage this position.
Yeah.
Wait, you want my
I
bishop?
understand.
I can't give you my bishop. I need that piece.
Remember what I said.
What'd you say?
Huh?
What'd
What
you
I
say?
said was
What'd you say?
a.
What'd you say?
What I said was a.
Was what?
Once the time is over, click. That's it.
That's it? That's it?
Yeah.
All right, let's see what happens next.
Once it's over, You know?
I think I can
Made
figure
in
this
three.
one out. Made in 23.
Made in 3.
23.
In 3.
23.
Made in 23?
In 3.
It's good.
Let me go up here. Over here. In there.
In 3.
Down there.
In 3. That's it. That's game.
Only now?
That's game.
I thought it was over already. Wait a minute.
What's going on now?
I've heard of this rule called Ponte's Pawn en passant. I heard of that.
Oh,
rule.
yeah?
Yeah, I heard of that one.
You heard that?
I've heard of it. Ooh, that's gonna make it easy.
Yeah, and resign.
game.
Cut!
That's game.
Cut! Cut!
Wilson, I appreciate it. Wilson, thank you very much.
Cut! I mean, cut.
Yeah,
I mean
Come on,
it.
man.
I mean it. Yeah.
Come on, man. Don't
I mean
really
it.
like that.
Thanks a lot,
Let me
Wilson.
get
I
a
appreciate
game.
it. Thanks a lot.
What is your name? You didn't tell me your name.
Maurice, Ashley.
Are you ready?
Grandmaster.
Hey, this is enough. Cut! I mean it. Cut!
So good.
Yeah, that is so funny. And Tim, it's funny. I'm sitting here watching it with you for the very first time. Like we've never watched it.
We've never
been
watched
in
it
the same
together.
room.
Yeah.
We've never watched it together. It's such a funny video. First of all, a lot of people don't want to know. Like some people think it's staged. They
No,
actually
not
think
staged.
We staged it. Like
Zero
like,
staged.
amazing act. Like I would definitely say I'm a brilliant actor if I could do what happened here. And as is Wilson, as is everybody around, that would be totally brilliant. But there is one thing that people think, oh, this must be staged because of the camera work. I only remember 2 cameras. How many cameras did you guys have? Because it seems like you have 4 or 5 cameras. I only remember 2.
There are 2 cameras, and the cameramen in this case, they're both men, have to get really good at moving. And they work with a production company called 0.0, which also did Anthony Bourdain. And so they have to get really sophisticated about how they do blocking. In other words, like how do you actually film something like this with 2 camera people without filming the other camera person? It's very complicated. And none of this was staged. None of this was staged. It's 2 camera people, and it's very hard to do as good a job as they did. It's very, 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 very difficult. But
Look, it's extraordinary. It feels like 4 cameras.
Yeah,
it feels
it's
like
nuts.
at least 4.
It's
And
wild.
You get my face, close-ups. You get Wilson's face, close-ups. You get the background. You show up in the background. You get a flavor for the thing. You get the chess pieces, moves on the board. You get all that content with 2 cameras. I mean, that's grandmastery right there, as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, it is.
Just
It is.
the ability to do all that.
Yeah, some of these camera people have to move so much. I actually talked to a friend of mine recently who's camera guy, sort of director of photography, was so active. He moved so much. It was like 1 or 2 marathons per day, and he passed out. He passed out because he was moving so much. So it's a real skill, and none of that was staged. I was there.
Well, I mean, I know it wasn't staged. I know.
I'm saying for the crowd.
Like, let's be real. But what was staged, so to speak, not staged, but what the point was you were trying to hack chess, if you will, to be good enough to be able to beat some of the hustlers in the park, or at least one hustler in the park. I think it was 2 weeks was your timeline. And when you said that, I was like, Tim, you're pretty good at hacking stuff, but just in 2 weeks against the hustlers?
It was too aggressive. It was too aggressive. So it was not all of my attempts were successful. This was way too aggressive. And furthermore, as you know, this particular episode had 2 pieces. So I was working on chess and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu simultaneously. So I ended up not only having tremendous difficulty, in other words, not succeeding in defeating a chess hustler in the park, but I also ended up doing like late night MRIs and x-rays because I thought I had broken ribs from training at the Marcelo Garcia jiu-jitsu gym and getting my ass handed to me hours upon hours every day. So that was a very, very challenging week in New York City.
I can imagine how humbling it is. Like somebody's beating you down at jiu-jitsu, and then you go play some hustlers, and they're like, just give me your money, okay?
Yeah, you just get, like, basically your brain gets mugged, and then your body gets beaten. It was just an unrelenting... Yeah, it was an unrelenting week of punishment is what it was.
That's great. And the thing is, the hustlers know how to play. Okay, this Wilson was classic in this one, but Wilson could play. It's not like I had an easy time of it. I wasn't just going whap, 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 checkmate, scholars made, finish. No, Wilson saw moves, and when he was in trouble, he noted that he was in trouble. You could see when it shifted, and he's like, yo, I'm going to lose a pawn here. And only a pawn. But he knew he was going to lose that pawn. And he started feeling it. And then when he realized he was going to lose a piece and it was too much, then he started reacting. There are a couple of moments here that I like. Let's go to the moment. Well, first of all, at the beginning, let's just be clear on this hustle, Tim. So you were in the park first. You got filmed playing against another player in the park, right? And I think he beat you both games. I remember watching.
He did. He did. I will say, though, that having a few basic principles, even without any openings memorized, I was able to last a while. It was surprising. I mean, I did lose for sure, but the difference in sort of pre-training and post-training was still pretty impressive. But yes, I got defeated.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
And those principles are real. I mean, if you know to control the center, develop your pieces, castle early, don't move your queen out too soon, trying to win quickly, that'll take you pretty far by itself. You won't just be making dumb-looking moves and just get mated on a stick. So those principles we're talking about, those high-frequency principles, like those things are over and over again. You're going to see those things happen.
That could be the name of your shish kebab restaurant at some point. Mated on a stick. I don't know what that means, but it sounds good for a restaurant.
That is what it means. That is what it means. This is Brooklyn talk right now. I might be in Fort Lauderdale. I've moved to Fort Lauderdale condo, let me just say the slightly elderly building, but hey, BK all day. Brooklyn Nets, by the way, folks. Oh my God, I got to say it now because the people out there are going to be hating on Brooklyn. We know it's 3-3 and Brooklyn is in the house. Oh man, I can't believe we lost Kyrie Irving. You know, Giannis going under him. He should have been thrown out the game. Woo! Okay, I'm joking. But 3-3. Brooklyn tomorrow night, getting it done, and Philly, in trouble. All right, let's not talk basketball. I'm going crazy for that. But let's get back to, by the way, sports. To me, sports is a breeding ground for, Maurice. Oh, it's just Maurice. No, everybody knows. When you want to study high, elite, excellent performers, sports is where it's at. Like that's people competing against each other, trying to beat each other. That's what it's all about.
It's any competition, right? It's any chess, it's poker, I see chess, it's basketball, anything.
I see chess as a sport. Once you say I'm going to win, and the other guy's like, no, you're not, then we're talking. All right, we're going to have to practice and train so I can whip your ass. That's sports. That's competition. But you did play against two players, and then your producer, or I don't know who it was, who said to me, this didn't work out too well for Tim. That's what he said. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's fine. It's true. I lost.
Would you mind playing one of the hustlers? And I was like, me? I didn't come here to play. Like, what? Yeah, I was like, what are we talking about? These guys are trying to make a living, whatever. So, well, we can negotiate with him and see, what he thinks. And so they went to Wilson, and I'm going to give you guys inside info. They went to Wilson and said, Wilson, would you be willing to play? And Wilson said, I'm willing to play as long as you pay a little change. I think it was like $20. I think it was exactly $20. And you cut when it's over. I don't want any more filming when it's over. So Wilson, was a negotiator with a plan. He said, you're going to cut when it's all over. That's why at the end you hear him going, cut. Like, this is done. Like, no more. Because he had his window. He's going to make a little nice chunk of change, or whoever this loser was, he was going to play. He didn't know the loser happened to be like a sneak tip GM rolling up on him. And I made a blunder at the very beginning. You should note the blunder at the beginning. Let's go to the beginning, by the way. All right, let's go.
Well, I should say also, I need to thank you for dressing like Morpheus. It was perfect for television. It was amazing. I mean, just incredible. So thank you for that.
That's my jacket. That's my jacket. That's my G-Star Raw jacket. They should pay me money for how many times the jacket has been seen. Because I didn't get any endorsement at all. But that is a G-Star Raw jacket, which, by the way, is so classic. My son now owns this jacket. So
nice.
Be real. But look at the beginning, folks, to see the blunder I make in the beginning. If you're going to hustle a hustler, what you shouldn't do. Let's just play it a little bit.
If you want to see more of these videos, don't forget to click the subscribe button and please follow me on twitch.tv/GMAshley.